Well, biology 20s, here is video number 2 on osmoregulation. In video number 1, we reviewed the parts of the the nephron, not neuron, that's bio 30, that's next year. Parts of the nephron, the major events in urine formation, and then we talked about osmoregulation. We talked exclusively about the role, the action of the hormone ADH, the antidiuretic hormone that is produced up in your brain in the hypothalamus that is going to detect if you have too much or too little water in your bloodstream. And then this hormone ADH, the antidiuretic hormone, is stored in the pituitary and then released into the bloodstream. And then it travels through your bloodstream to your kidneys, where it helps to conserve water. In other words, it helps to reabsorb water, making more water go into your blood, less being in your urine, and therefore you have more concentrated urine because of the action of ADH. It's the anti-pee hormone. You pee less water in your urine. Okay, so next up, we are going to talk a little bit about salt reabsorption. And so we said that salt is sodium chloride, so sodium ions and chloride ions. Mostly we just talk about sodium ions. So salt balance is due to the action of a different hormone. It's called aldosterone. And aldosterone actually comes from the adrenal gland. So if you have a kidney on either side of your body at the back, kind of under your ribs, here's the kidney, and then here's the ureters. So you've got one on each side. Sitting just on top of each kidney is the adrenal gland. So ad means on top of, renal means kidney. So here's where the aldosterone is made, and then it just travels through the bloodstream to the kidney. And of course, this is where the nephrons are. You have millions and millions and millions of little nephrons in your kidney. And then this hormone, aldosterone, is responsible for salt or sodium balance. So the deal about aldosterone is that when you have too dilute of sodium ion concentrations in your bloodstream, not enough sodium, the aldosterone hormone will be released to help you retain or reabsorb or keep salt in your body and increase the amount of salt in your blood. So here's the deal. Oh, look at my sodium. My salt concentration is very low. That's why they're tiny little sodiums. So what has to happen? Adrenal gland is going to release aldosterone. Aldosterone floats through the bloodstream and it acts on the kidney. Where does aldosterone act? Well, aldosterone acts same spot, distal tubule and collecting duct, exact same location as ADH acts, but this is not about the balance of water. Well, it is actually, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but it's about sodium. So here's the deal. Aldosterone acts on the distal tubule and the collecting duct, and it's going to cause more sodium, more salt to get reabsorbed into the bloodstream. And that means that there is less salt in your urine. Okay? And when we talk about aldosterone, so again, I kind of gave you a little preview of what I was going to talk about is we've already talked about that anytime salt moves, chloride is going to follow because that positive charge of sodium, well, the negative of chloride is attracted to the charges, right? Negative and positive. And who else follows? One other guy, water. Water also follows because of osmosis, right? When there's too high of solute concentration, water is going to follow. So this already is giving you a little clue to what I'm going to be talking about next. And that is that there is an indirect action of aldosterone. So water follows sodium. So not only when you have aldosterone acting on your distal tubule and collecting duct to make sodium ions go back into your bloodstream. So here's more sodium going back into your bloodstream. Well, along follows chloride and along follows water. So the deal is now we have more water in our blood, so the volume of the blood goes up, right? It's just like turning on a tap, right? All of a sudden you turn the tap on, there's more water flowing through or flowing out like a garden hose, and it swells up. So higher blood volume and the blood pressure goes up. So this is the indirect actions, not the main action. The main action is for sodium to be reabsorbed or to be conserved, or for sodium to stay in the body. But there is a secondary indirect action, and that is the fact that water follows sodium and chloride, and so you end up with actually more water in your blood and therefore more blood pressure. Okay, so that's our indirect action. So there's salt balance. And one other thing to talk about here is hydrogen ion balance, which is just simply the pH. So you already remember this reaction from when we did respiration, and we talked about this enzyme carbonic anhydrase being important, that it took water and CO2 and it made carbonic acid, and then carbonic acid would break apart into hydrogen and bicarbonate or hydrogen carbonate ions. This is a reversible reaction. It can go in the forward direction or the reverse direction because of this enzyme carbonic acid. So when we talk about blood pH, pH stands for the power of hydrogen. So it's all about the hydrogen ion concentration. You all remember from Science 10 the pH scale. 7 in the middle is neutral, and the scale goes from 0 down at the bottom up to 14 for the pH. So the more hydrogen ions there are, the more acidic it is, and that means we're going to be closer to this end of the scale. More hydrogen ions, more acidic, is going to be a lower pH. On the other hand, when you have less hydrogen ions, it's less acidic, so it's more on the basic end, and that's going to be a higher pH, and the values are going to be closer to 14. So hydrogen ion balance is important for maintaining the pH of your blood and your body tissues. So your blood and body tissues are actually slightly basic. Your pH in your blood and body tissues is just a little bit north of the neutral, just into the basic range of pH 7.4. So if you get too acidic in your bloodstream or your tissues and your body cells, then your pH gets too low. And so that means that you have too many hydrogen ions. And so with too many hydrogen ions, you have to get rid of them. And so you're going to adjust your body and get rid of more hydrogen ions in your urine. If, on the other hand, your pH is too high, that means you have less hydrogen ions, and this less concentration of hydrogen ions means that you need more hydrogen ions, so you don't get rid of them, you retain them. And that is going to help you maintain your pH, your body fluids balance of hydrogen ions. All right. So that summarizes osmoregulation, maintaining fluid, water, in other words, osmosis, water moving from high to low concentrations, maintaining salt or solutes or electrolytes in your body. Those are ions like sodium and chloride. And then, of course, your pH, that's the final thing where you are maintaining hydrogen ion concentration. So your last thing in this booklet is to work through the true and false and practice questions, and hopefully that helps you be more familiar with osmoregulation. Okay, take care.